What's going on, y'all? Coming to you with a very simple but hopefully profound message for you today, and that is I want you to start caring less about your job. Yes, you heard that correctly. Care less about your job. Now, before the crowd comes in that feels triggered by that, annoyed by that, frustrated by that, I want you to understand really quickly if that sort of messaging doesn't resonate with you or immediately triggers some sense of defensiveness about work and how you approach it, then this podcast likely isn't for you. And this message likely isn't for you. And that's okay. We're allowed to have different opinions and feelings about things. But for those who are intrigued by that message, this is why I'm telling you that. I have seen time and time again something happen in people's coaching journey where people will work with me initially feeling some sense of burnout, lacking control, not feeling recognized in an appropriate way at their job, and it's stressing them out. It's causing them to lose sleep, feel bad about themselves, overextend themselves, and inevitably experience a lot of pain and struggle in their personal life and their professional life. And after working with them and getting to a point of separating their work identity from their personal identity, detaching their self-worth from work, going through all these different sort of strategies and tactics to help them develop a better relationship with work, many people eventually reach this point of realizing, wow, I'm actually caring way too much about my job. I'm allowing my job to dictate how I feel about myself and how I feel about my personal life. And that is a power that I don't necessarily have to give my job. Now, if you're wondering, well, if I stop caring about my job, does that mean that I'm going to be a worse employee? I'm going to be less productive? I'm going to perform worse? Not necessarily. That's not at all what I'm advocating for. Instead, I'm asking you to get very clear with yourself about the role you're allowing work to play in your life. Because there is a world, there is a reality where work is simply an exchange of time for money, an exchange of performance for money, and that's it. When I talk about finding meaning and purpose in your job, for some of us, maybe you're in the nonprofit field or in law or medicine or other fields where there is almost like a calling for what you're doing, and you feel very attached to the mission of the work, like it's something greater than yourself, that's okay. That is something we can use as a superpower to work through any sort of bumps or difficulties adjusting to your work. And also, for some of us, the motivation to work can very simply be, I just want to check. I just want to be able to afford my bills. I want to be able to afford a lifestyle outside of work. The reason I get up, the reason I choose to get up is because I want to make a certain amount of money in order to afford a certain lifestyle or provide for certain people that really matter to me and that I feel compelled to show up for and responsible for. That is enough of a reason to show up to your job. And for many of us, I think we would benefit from coming to terms or reckoning with this reality that work is simply not that inspiring. The content of the work, what we're actually doing, the mission might feel too disconnected, or you've been doing this job for a very long time and it feels kind of monotonous and repetitive at this point. And recognizing like that's not always really a problem that has to be solved, that's okay. Work is allowed to be something that is repetitive and is monotonous and isn't directly meaningful in terms of the practice of it. What we can then do to pivot and make sure that we are not taking on that problem personally or interpreting that problem as somehow I'm doing something wrong or my work is doing something wrong to me is by then allowing ourselves to care less about the job itself. Don't attach your own identity to this work so strongly that when things feel repetitive or like there's not a lot of growth happening or you don't feel super connected to the mission, that all of a sudden that's an indication that some big sweeping change has to be made in your life, because that's not always the case. For a lot of us, what we need to start doing is releasing this pressure to find meaning in every single aspect of our job or every single waking moment that we're at work. And instead choosing to find some other reason that we decide to go to work each day and show up. So understand the nuance there. Again, this is not about you shirking your performance, sleeping on the job, showing up late and leaving early. That is never going to get you anywhere. You and I both know that that is horrible advice to give to anyone in any position at work. Instead, I want you to learn to detach yourself from your job. Let it be something that plays a very specific role in your life to then open you up to other aspects of life that you care about. As a vehicle to get time off where you go on a meaningful vacation with your family a couple times a year. As a vehicle to get a regular paycheck that you then love to spend on exercise classes, hobbies, cooking classes, whatever your passion is outside of work. As a vehicle of stability so that you can then open up some side hustle, some side gigs, some side business that you are passionate about. Creating jams and jellies. I don't know, whatever floats your boat. But the take home here is you are allowed to change your relationship to work, how you think about it, how you relate to it. So can you find the kind of framing of work that allows you to feel like you are not giving up your soul or giving up a huge sacrifice each time that you show up? Find that framing that allows you to feel in the driver's seat, in control, and allows you to continue showing up, continue being responsible, continue doing what you have to do, but maybe in service of some other goal or some other aspect of life that's really important to you. That's where we start practicing mental flexibility in terms of how we are thinking about work or relating to work or the kinds of beliefs we have around work and the role it should play in our lives. So whatever that spurs up for you, obviously, I would love to hear more about it. Please drop it in the comments. And if you feel that little voice in the back of your head from other people telling you that's unacceptable, how can you detach from work in that way? Just remember, their reality is their reality. They're allowed to relate to work however they choose to relate to work. That might not necessarily work for you, though. And our job is to figure out what will work for you. Don't let those other little voices creep in and influence how you are truly feeling about work.